The official clock is now clicked over. Welcome all to the ordinary meeting of Council for the 16th of October, Wellington Shire. Welcome councillors and welcome media and welcome to our gallery. Firstly, I'd like to let you know that members of the public gallery should note that the council records and publishes council meetings via YouTube to enhance the accessibility of council meetings to the broader Wellington community. These recordings are also archived and may be published on Council's website for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. It's a meeting, but who wish to communicate with Council via the webcasting chat room should lodge their questions or comments early in the meeting to ensure that their submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. Please could gallery visitors and councillors ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting. Please stand for acknowledgement and prayer. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai people, and pay our respects to their elders past and present. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. Moving on to item A2, we have apologies.
Yes, Mayor, apologies from Councillor McCubbin and Councillor Stevens.
So noted. Item A3, declaration of conflict of interest. Councillor Marr.
Yes, Mayor, I have a conflict of interest, an indirect interest under section 78B due to a conflict of duty at item 5.2.
A5, business arising from previous meeting. Oh, A4, I've skipped one, thank you. Confirmation of minutes, Councillor.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I move the Council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the ordinary council meeting of the 2nd of October 2018.
I have a seconder for that. Councillor Marr, is that motion opposed? The motion's not opposed, the motion is carried. Right, thank you, Mr. Councillor Bye. Now moving on to item A5, business arising from previous meetings.
Madam Mayor.
Item A6, acceptance of late items. We have two. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to move that the two notices of motion that have been submitted be accepted as late items.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? The motion's not opposed. The motion is carried. Now moving on to the first motion. Is that up? We just wait for. Yep, we're fine. No, that's fine.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I move the Council ask the Mayor to write to the Minister for Energy, Environment and Climate Change, the Honourable Lily D'Ambrosio, the Minister for Planning, the Honourable Richard Wynne, the Minister for Water, the Honourable Lisa Neville, and the Minister for Local Government, the Honourable Natalie Hutchins, to express Wellington Shire Council's concern with the contents of the Victorian Auditor-General's Office VAGO report, follow-up of oversight and accountability of the Committees of Management September 2018. Council is particularly concerned with the report's conclusions that the situation facing community committees of management which manage Crown Land has deteriorated since 2014. Council asked the Mayor to write to the Ministers seeking answers as to how the Victorian Government will urgently address the advanced findings contained in the report. This correspondence with Ministers will also be shared with local members of Parliament.
Mayor, just before that motion second, I do apologise. I've given Councillor Bye some incorrect information. In fact, the Minister for Local Government has changed. It's now the Honourable Marlene Carew, so we'll just change that that reference on the report, and I apologise to Councillor Bye.
Thank you. So we have a seconder for that with the altered. Yes, Councillor Rossetti. Seconded? We're right with it.
Thanks, Madam
no,
Mayor.
hang on, I was just waiting that Trish had got that recorded. Yes. And yes, I was going to wait for that bit. Yeah. And the motion is not opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor By.
Thank you very much. Look, Vago have done this report. I'd just like to point out what we actually have. There is 32 Crown allotted Committee of Managements in the Wellington Shire. There's also 108 Wellington Shire Council supported Committee of Managements. That's 140 different committees. What does that entail? It is 800 volunteers. They provide over 3,200 volunteer hours per month. That's close to $800,000 in labour per year based on a $20 per hour labour rate, which is pretty poor. I don't think many people would do that sort of volunteering for that sort of dollars. So it is a lot of money, a lot of time that goes into our community from volunteers. Council recognises that these volunteers are extremely valuable to the local economy and livability of our communities, and are disappointed that DELP has not prioritised support and capacity building for the Committee of Management on Crown reserves. Look, it's an important thing to us to have these committees involved in the general community, and we wait with anticipation to see what the state government will reply to the letter we're sending them. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor By. Now we have the second notice of motion. Who did we have two? Who was doing that with? Councillor By, are you?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I move the Council write to the Minister for Housing, Disability and Ageing, the Honourable Martin Foley MP, and advocate for the state government to renew its commitment to the Victorians with disabilities and continue to fund the unique Building Inclusive Communities program until the impacts of the National Disability Insurance Scheme on local communities and services are known. The correspondence with the Minister will also be shared with local members of Parliament.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Ma. Is that motion opposed? The motion is not opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor By, who wishes to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, the Building Inclusive Communities, or BIC program, has been funded through the Victorian State Government since 2001. BIC provides funding for the rural access and metro access workers across the state. It's an important part of our framework. Now, that has been improved. The National Disability Insurance Scheme has been rolled out in 2013. Our Shire is on the tail end of that rollout, and it will be implemented in our Shire on the 1st of January 2019. We're unsure how that's actually going to work with what has currently been happening with the Building Inclusive Communities program. We are unsure what is going to happen. We have been given 6 months transition. We don't believe that 6 months transition will be long enough for us to implement the new NDIS scheme that is coming out. It has been rolled out since 2013. We're at the tail end. 6 months we're worried about. What we would like the state government to do is to keep funding the current system or scheme that we have, the current program, for a period of time that is longer, to enable us to make sure that everything can be implemented for our community for the national scheme that is now getting implemented across everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. We can do that. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. As I sit on the this Wellington Access and Inclusion Group, I would just like to endorse everything that Councillor By has mentioned, and I totally agree that we need this continued support to marry along the line up with the NDIS. It is absolutely imperative that this continue, and every bit of support that the Wellington Shire and everyone that speaks with any member of Parliament can say, we need this money. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ripper. Moving on to item A8, receiving of petitions or joint letters. We have one laying on the table waiting to be dealt with, but I believe there's some visitors in the gallery who wish to speak to the Castle's car park and to Zaley Street. So if you come to the microphone there and please state your name, and you have a maximum of 3 minutes for your case. Thank you.
Yep. My name is John Jago. For those who don't know who I am, I represent Jim's Mowing in Sale for 15 years. I've done that. I've been on the Shire as a Shire employee for 15 years. So I know the ins and outs of the Shire, and I know the ins and outs of what I do. I've come to the realisation that the parking has been beautified, as I've been notified, in Zaley Street. But that does not allow me, with my ute and trailer, to park in that car parking. I now have to park further down the street. Now, as you're aware, that is a lot of commerce there, which is the banks, which close at 4 o'clock. I've been told that I can park there after 4, but the banks, when they're closed, I can't operate with them. Graham Chalmers, which I deal a lot with Graham Chalmers to get the work. I can't park there because obviously the concrete strip that runs down the middle is stopping me from parking there in my ute and in my trailer. I've been told I can park parallel, but then that takes up 8 car parks, whereas I only need 2. So that's why I organised this petition, to see if it could get changed. And with the help of Mr. Scott Rossetti and Mrs. Ripper. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, no worries.
Okay. Now, if you wish to stay, you can, but if you wish to head off, you're quite welcome to as well. Thank you. Thank you for your submission. And you will get another opportunity when it does come to Council for the final decision. Thank you. Which will be the next Council meeting. And you can be, I'm sure, Councillor Rossetti will notify you. Thank you. Anybody else missed? No? Okay, so we just, to say that'll be just dealt with at the next Council meeting. Item A9, invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgement. I don't believe we have any there. Item A10, no questions or notice.
No, Mayor.
Item A11, which is the Mayor's and Councillor Activity Report. Councillor Marr.
I move that the Mayor and Councillor Activity Report be noted.
Thank you. Councillor Rossetti, seconded. Is that motion opposed? The motion's not opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor Marr.
I think anyone looking at the Mayor and Councillor report can certainly agree that everyone's been very busy. On the 18th of September, councillors and staff attended the Smolinars Timeless Memory Museum, and a big thank you needs to go out to them for allowing us to peruse what is definitely a lifetime collection of items. That was part of the community conversation that the council has initiated, that the councillors and staff have been involved with over, well, for me, the last 2 years. And I think that everyone can agree that it's a great initiative that certainly allows councillors and staff to actually get up close with community groups and people that are actually working quite hard as volunteers or community groups, and at least in that one-on-one situation, they can certainly advocate and show off what they have actually been doing. There's also there was a meeting between the CEO and the Mayor with Karen Kane of the Latrobe Valley Authority on the 10th of September, and I'd like to just do bit of a shout out to the LVA for all of the monies that they've been able to approve and allocate to to groups within the Wellington Shire, and providing opportunities that probably council couldn't do alone without support. Over the 3 shires, Bawball, Latrobe and Wellington, there's been an amount of $7.7 million spent with the Community Facilities Fund alone. And there's a few groups. The Yarram Rec Reserve received $24,000 for the installation of solar panels. The Seaspray Hall received $24,000 for replacement of their roof and rodded windows, for the windows to be replaced with aluminium ones. Rosedale Sports Complex received $9,000 for solar panels, and the Hayfield Memorial Hall received $41,000 for a new acoustic system. And not to mention the Sale Showgrounds that have pretty much completed and are about to launch their $500,000 improvement of their admin and amenities block next week. So it is a big thank you to the Latrobe Valley Authority for what they've been able to support our communities with. And that's not to mention the community outreach projects and the business support that they're actually offering, and that our economic development team are ensuring that our local businesses utilise fully. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Moving on to item B, Report of Delegates. I don't believe we've only got delegates report tonight. Item C, Officers' Report. Item C, 1.1, Chief Executive Officer's Report. Councillor Hall.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I move that the Chief Executive Officer's report be received.
Seconded by Councillor Bai. Is that motion opposed? The motion is not opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor Hall.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Again, this report sets out the activities of that the CEO engages in. And for this report, I might just focus on the very last listed entry, and that'll be no surprise to anybody, really. On the 11th of October, the CEO acted as the Master of Ceremonies for the Locksport Foreshore redevelopment opening. What an amazing day. Clearly, the CEO enjoys a good sausage sizzle. To the Mayor, thank you for doing the opening. And to the staff who have managed this project, a job well done and appreciated by the local community. To the Lions of Locksport, who initially developed and supported the barbecue space, which has now been redeveloped, and who on the day provided the sausage sizzle that the CEO was so keen on. It's important that we continue to support our small and vibrant communities across this municipality. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. It was a great additive having the primary school children there as well.
What a great day.
Yeah, beautiful sunshine as well. Moving on to item C 1.2, September 2018 Performance Report. Councillor Hall.
These are the easy reports I get to do, Mayor. I move that Council receive and note the September 2018 Performance Report as attached.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Bai. Is that motion opposed? The motion is not opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor Hall.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. This report contains progress in relation to the major initiatives along with financials as required under section 138(1) of the Local Government Act. And if I comment briefly on some of the highlights, John Leslie Prize was won by Vanessa Kelly. New cardio equipment and spin bikes have been installed at Aqua Energy. The Gippsland Regional Sports Complex Stage 2 is nearing completion. And the Association for Children with a Disability delivered a workshop to assist families preparing for the NDIS. And importantly, council staff had meetings with Agriculture Industry Reference Group, AgVic and RDV to discuss the drought package. And as you'll note, I've already discussed the earlier report on the Locksport redevelopment. I'll leave the rest of the narrative for you to consume. However, I note in regard to the financials, the income statement shows a positive variance to budget, predominantly driven by good results across expenditure areas and stronger grants, particularly capital grants. In turn, the capital expenditure program for the first quarter reports activity levels above the year-to-date profiled budget. Both rates, debtors collected and the cash position reports favourable results compared to the prior year, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you for that précis, Councillor Hall. Item C2. Item C2.1, Assembly of Councillors. Councillor Bai.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I move the Council note and receive the attached Assembly of Councillor records for the period 25th of September 2018 to the 9th of October 2018.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ripper. Is that motion opposed? The motion's not opposed. The motion is carried. Happy with that? Item C2.2, consideration of the annual report 2017-18. Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council consider, discuss and receive the annual report 2017-18 in accordance with the requirements of the Local Government Act 1989.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Hall. Is that motion opposed? The motion's not opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor Rossetti.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Councillors, for supporting that motion. The annual report is actually quite a useful document, and I certainly commend it to those in the community to have a look at. Most reports that Council and Government produce are, put it like, pretty dull. This actually, I find, has got a lot of really useful elements in there to understand what's been happening around the local community. I mean, if you want to have a crack at councillors and councils and what they're doing, the annual report released by every single council actually has a lot of the facts and figures. It will let you understand what's going on in that council. For instance, it actually has how many times people turn up to meetings, and how many times councils have had closed meetings. In fact, we've ranked the lowest, or amongst the lowest in the state, for the amount of openness we have with the very few meetings being closed to the community. But it also talks to the amount of funds that we've received from other levels of government and other organisations for the works that have been done on things like this building here, the works that have been done on sports and rec buildings all around the Shire, and streetscapes and all the great projects. Because 61% of our funding comes from rates, but the rest of it actually comes from other sources of revenue. And so that's really important for our community to understand where that comes from and what's in there. But it also has some fun facts. Fun facts like there's 3,541 tonnes of recyclables sent for reprocessing. There's 1,525,160 scheduled curbside garbage and recycling collection bin lifts. Imagine if they did that with a local footy team like they used to do when we were kids. There'd be a hell of a lot of arm wrestling muscles built up there. 19,775 people visited the Wedge, and 7,354 kilometres of roadside slashed. So I certainly commend people have a read. There's something for everyone. There's no colouring in section for the kiddies, but other than that, it's actually quite a good read. So well done to those who put it together. A lot of it is something we are required to put together, but the fact that it's so well put together and it's quite readable, I think is a real credit. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, that's right. So there will be available at the libraries, also at the various help desks or front desks, and also it'll be published online. So yeah, lots of, as Councillor Rossetti said, lots of detail, lots of highlights what's been achieved, and also it relates back to what our community wanted to see us achieve and what we did plan from the beginning of the year. So a very important document for the council and for the community of Wellington. So thank you very much, Councillor Rossetti. Item C3.1, the quarterly strategic land use planning update. Councillor Marr.
I move that Council receive the 2018 third quarterly update on the Strategic Land Use Planning Work Program included in Attachment 1 to this report.
I have a seconder for that. Councillor Hall. Sorry about that. Is that motion opposed? The motion's been opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor Marr.
Thank you. I'll just give a brief description of each heading. The first one is the North Sale Development Plan and Developer Contribution Plan. This was formally adopted by Council on the 17th of April 2018, and it is largely addressing sales growth over the next 15 to 20 years. At the moment, detailed work is currently underway to prepare the associated developer contributions mechanism, which will seek to equitably apportion the costs associated with the required infrastructure provision across the developable land within the growth area. The West Sale and Warwick Industrial Land Supply Strategy. This is largely directed at the grant funding that was received of the amount of $80,000 from the Victorian Planning Authority under the Streamlining for Growth initiative. This will assist the preparation of technical reports to supply the detailed master plan of the candidate area number 2. The Wellington Land Use and Development Strategy, LUDS. This is almost taking a bit of a back seat at the moment to the next initiative, which is the Planning in the Economic Growth Zone, PEGS. The Economic Growth Zone was established in November 2016 as part of the $226 million package provided by the Latrobe Valley Authority with regard to boosting local economy. The PEGS is actually aiming to support economic development through a simpler, more consistent and less cumbersome planning system across the region. So at the moment, they're leading on Project 1, which is a policy-neutral review of the Wellington Planning Scheme, and will certainly be able to be supported by the Minister of Planning without the need to formally exhibit a planning scheme amendment. Port of Sale East Bank redevelopment study. This Port of Sale East Bank redevelopment study is largely at the area where the Sale Specialist School was, and this is largely a lot of background work on this study is expected to commence in November 2018, and that's primarily as the Shire certainly recognises that this area is quite a high priority of development that needs to be looked at carefully with the future development of this area. The updated flood mapping is C99. This is subject to formal council consideration and subsequent ministerial authorisation to be granted. Public exhibition time frames are tentative at this time and may commence in early 2019. The Yarrambudda factory, that is an amendment C100, which was rectifying a technical anomaly that was picked up by the Wellington planners. This is largely to correctly apply a heritage overlay to the site, and at the moment the landowners have certainly agreed to this, and the documents are being prepared and forwarded to the Minister for Planning for his consideration and approval. The West Sale Industrial Land, this is Amendment C103, which will facilitate industrial use on land and the application of detailed planning controls to manage the potential impacts of future development on nearby sensitive areas. C94 is a rezoning of the former Sale Police Station site. This is certainly sitting with the state government at the moment, and they are still seeking to resolve this issue based on the removal of native title on the site, which is currently preventing development and sale of the land at this time. The C101 Princess Highway rezoning was formally approved by the Minister of Planning on the 16th of August 2018. C104, removal of the state resource overlay from land at Gormandale Fauna Reserve. This was also approved approval is currently being considered by the Minister of Planning at this time. And that was largely the removal of the SRO on the basis that the coal resource for the subject land is of little value and the site is sufficiently removed from higher value areas as to be of little use for coal-related activities. And C105 is the Gippsland line upgrade, the Avon River Bridge. At the request of the Rail Projects Victoria, the Minister of Planning has prepared Amendment C105 to facilitate the upgrade of the Avon River Bridge. This amendment changes the Wellington Planning Scheme to insert clause 45.12, specific controls overlay and its associated schedule to allow the use and development of land for the Gippsland line upgrade, Avon River Bridge, and includes the Gippsland line upgrade, Avon River Bridge upgrade, November 2018, as an incorporated document within the scheme. And it's important to note that once that bridge upgrade has actually been completed, then that amendment will lapse in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marr, for that very comprehensive update. Well, it's an important area of council activity. Moving on to item C3.2, submissions to proposed sale of surplus council land in Golden Beach. I believe we have some people from the gallery who wish to speak to this item. Now's the opportunity to come forth. And if you please state your name, and as I say, you have 3 minutes to state your case. Thank you very much.
My name's Rachel Gouchy. I'm the president of the 90 Mile Beach Property Rights Action Group. We have formally objected to the submission to the proposed sale of surplus land. We have received response in relation to the questions, and from that response we have now got further questions that have come about, and we would like to put that forward to you tonight. Throughout the document under item C 3.2, it's listed a report that there is no reference to what that report is under the title of background. Also under the title of background, it is stating that at a council meeting on June 7th, 2011, when council was resolved to remove the memorandum on sale of council land, the question that's been posed on that is why was it only for council land that was removed, and it wasn't removed for other land within that same area. We also have questions in relation to the proposal on page 258 under point 3, where it says that full proceeds of the sale of land be directed towards Golden Beach and Shoreline Drive path. The question around that would be, why would you be building a path in an area that you're deeming as conservation and also deemed as being flood prone if you are looking at vegetation within that area, where you later on in the report state that from a camping perspective you cannot remove vegetation? Why would you be removing vegetation for a pathway? Also in relation to that, under financial impact, it's noted there that the budget is available from within the Development Division Selling and Acquisitions cost budget. The question around that is that budget coming from the $6 million that the state government has appointed to the council back in 2011? On page 259, under community impact, progression with recommendations within this report is not expected to negatively impact on the wider community. The question around that is what you deem as the wider community, given that the ratepayers of the 90 Mile Beach area are the wider community also, and this is a negative impact on them. Moving along to page 266 in relation to the background and giving the story behind where the 90 Mile Beach property was first subdivided. Yes, this was subdivided back with the Rosedale Shire Council, who were your predecessors back in the late 1960s. Therefore, the council has subdivided land to the 90 Mile Beach residents, and the council, the now today council, needs to take responsibility for what was done back in the late 1960s. In relation to the rates notices, some submitters queried the issuing of rates notices. We'd like to understand where it is in writing that the rates notices are not being collected, yet the landowner is still being asked to give up their land in lieu of outstanding rates notices. And on page 269, in relation to use of sale funds, It's noted there that it would not be appropriate for council to undertake vegetation clearings for works of this kind, yet you are building a path in an area that has vegetation. Landowners by right have access to camp on their sites for 4 weeks of the year and cannot do so because they cannot get to that area, yet you are claiming that they cannot clear that path. They pay rates to the council in order for cleared paths so that they can have access to their land, so that they can at least camp on their land for 4 weeks of the year. In relation to future intention of the area, it's noted there that the planning policy framework provides clear recognition that future development is encouraged in the preferred settlement area of the Golden Beach. We'd like to understand how that is actually being proposed. In relation to lack of consultation, it's noted there that Local Government Act 1989, but doesn't state anything further, so we'd like to understand what section you are referring to. In relation for process for deeming land to be surplus, you again mention Local Government Act and Victorian Government Guideline. There is no further mention as to what that Local Government Act is, and we'd also like to get an understanding and find the location of where the councils has shared the public transparency policy under the Local Government Act requirements. Confidentiality and values, it's noted in here that it's that assessment of property valuations have been included in a confidential attachment. This is in contradiction of Local Government Act section 56 and 57, which states that there is no confidentiality and that documents should be provided to the wider community. And also having closed meetings is also in contradiction of the Local Government Act, which is in Part 3, Section 63, Number 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. If you like to give those questions to the officer for Josh, we'll get answers to those questions back to you within, within a week. We can do that, and we'll get the councillors will get copies of that as well. So if you can,
It's fine. Email's fine.
Email's fine. Yes, if you can get those to us, that'll be great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes.
My name is Emmanuel Gaffa. I've been coming on 90 Mile Beach since 1962. I've been using a tent up and down, spending my money up there, which is good for your community. But unfortunately, I've been looking after my wife with Parkinson and brain stimulator for the last 12 years, and I can't come up there, put a tent up with my wife. I like the quiet life, and I like it up there. So all I'm asking to give me a piece of land for my land so I can build something suitable where I can come and relax with my wife. You all talking about what you can do for your community, which is a beautiful thing. But it's no good from when you take from some and give it to others. It's not fair. And at the end of the day, the council had some involvement with the land when it was sold. So in some ways, the council at the time was responsible too. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission.
I'm just going to speak on my mum's behalf. Connie Gaffer, I'm Rose Mann. That was my father, Emmanuel Gaffer. They've actually got a block of land which they've had for over 50 years, never been able to build on it or go on it. Well, to go on it, but yeah, never been able to build on it. But anyway, I'll just speak on my mum's behalf.
My uncle bought it?
They did purchase the land off their uncle. Their uncle had people coming knocking on their door, agents telling them that there was this land in sale. It's going to be like surface paradise. They took them on a bus, brought them up here, showed them everything. And they couldn't afford it, but they brought the land. How many years later did you buy it? 2 years later? Well, 1962. Anyway, they brought the land off my mum's cousin, thinking the same thing, that it's going to be like surface paradise. They're going to be able to come up here, use their land. Anyway, they were told it was flood prone. They couldn't do it. Yeah. Anything else? Huh? And they couldn't afford it. They said to them that they could pay it off monthly, so they paid it off monthly, and then you took it over. What else do you want to say? Huh? That's all. But anyway, as you can see, my mum's got Parkinson's. She's had it for over 12 years. Mum and Dad have loved it here, you know. They can't even come and go onto their land. It's been taken over by vegetation. Apparently there's a fence there. You can get in and out. You might be able to walk there and try to find it, but you can't. It hasn't been cleared. They're still paying rates. I believe that there's $6 million that was given to the council for compensation. What's happened? What, give people $500 or $1,500? That's nothing. And my heart's grieving because I see all this money that's being spent for the community to do this, to do that. What about all these immigrants that came here? They wanted to be part of the community too. What about them? Have a heart. There needs to be an end to this. Huh? They knew what they were doing. Yes, it's sad. I'm sad. I mean, are they going to pass away and this is going to keep going? And there's a lot of people that have already passed away, you know? Please, you know, have a heart. Look into this. Do the right thing. You know, that's all we're asking. We've driven all the way from Melbourne to, you know, open our hearts to you all. You know, we want to be a part of this community. You know, we love it up here. We love the beach. Please, just all I'm asking, do something. You know, compensate or give them another block of land, you know. So clear the lands. Let us be able to at least go on the land and camp there again. So anyway, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Good evening, David Palermo, as part of the Property Right Action Group, the 90 Mile Beach Property Action Group. I'd just like to bring to the attention some of the issues that in relation to the sale of this property and the general 90 Mile Beach. There's been many inconsistencies over the years. At our meeting on the 21st of the 8th, 2018 this year, I just want it to be noted that Council did restrict into that closed meeting only 4 members of the public. There is no reference in the Local Government Act that states limiting public into the meeting. So I'm just concerned as to why Council chose only 4 members when there was 9 Council representatives there. The second point, in relation to that meeting, I did request for that meeting to be recorded. At that meeting, it was stated that Council meetings are not allowed to be recorded. That is inconsistent with what I'm seeing here tonight. This meeting has been recorded. There are numerous meetings up online of past meetings as well. My final point is in relation to Council's request to decline the list of properties that is owned by Council, not being made available for public reference. In relation to the Local Council Bill of 2018, councils do need to have a public transparency policy. I would like to see Wellington Shires Council's public transparency policy. This issue is inconsistent with the sale. There seems to be rules changing inevitably very often, generally in favour of council and not of the land rate holders. Thank you.
Just like the other speaker, Mr. Palermo, if you want to email those through to us, we can get a response to those requests. Okay, thank you. Yeah, and we'll get receiving around the council as well. Thank you. Will I call upon Councillor Hall to move the motion? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I move that 1, Council, having considered submissions, resolve that restructure lots 185, 226, 227 and 228 located at Golden Beach be sold. 2, Council authorise the Chief Executive Officer to progress the sale, including executing necessary documents. And 3, full proceeds from the sale of land be directed towards the Golden Beach Shoreline Drive Path project.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Bai. Is that motion opposed? The motion's not opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor Hall.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Having been appointed as an alternative representative to the committee, I was privileged to hear the submissions in regard to this proposed sale. Indeed, proposal number 3, point 3, reflects the importance of putting back in the 90 Mile Beach community. Having said that, I actually derived no pleasure from this process, and while we can't generally stand in the place of the submitters, I personally can understand the pain that this saga has inflicted. But in regard to this proposal to consolidate and sell, the relevant issues are relatively simple. These blocks are within the permitted development zone. These blocks were acquired by council at an independently assessed market value determined at the time based upon their consolidated and developable value, and this was shared amongst the landowners. When the landowners determined that they were not able or prepared to consolidate and sell. Contrary to the recent report of the 11th of October in The Age, which states, and I quote, "It was revealed this year that some of the blocks given back to the council would now be sold on the open market for a significant profit." The key issues that need to be addressed in particular: confidentiality of the land valuation. These blocks in question, as I've just noted, were acquired at an independent value on the basis of consolidation and being developable. As such, there is a commercial and confidence arrangement between the parties. These blocks are surplus to council's needs and are within the settlement areas capable of development. Clearly, council does not need to hold them, and more particularly, as we see a continued interest in our coast and lakes area, it's appropriate to sell them to boost interest, population and critical mass and vibrancy. The other issues as raised are focused upon the history of this sad saga. Our reports note that the supply of developable land owned by council is very small in comparison to 7,000 undevelopable lots. There's no equitable way to deal with swaps. With whom? How do we determine a mechanism to deal with this? The third part of the recommendation, as I've stated, puts the funds back into the local area. I'll leave you with the details of the submission and the response to read. But in closing, can I make the point? It was not us that embarked on targeting immigrant families or to commit to a development that was never deliverable. To trade on people's hopes and dreams is an absolute travesty. I remember a mate of mine from early years telling me how excited he and his family were about their dreams of a future paradise. I'm personally sorry to find myself amongst this issue not of our choosing. I would much prefer to be talking about pristine beaches and coastal dunes and fishing and tourism rather than the ongoing negativity of the inappropriate subdivisions that rips the hearts out of the victims and does this wonderful part of the world no good. Perhaps we all have a responsibility to understand we can't undo what is done, and to understand that as a council we do not derive any pleasure from the pain of others, and perhaps recognise that collectively we have a responsibility to enhance the positive aspects of this place we love. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Moving on. If you wish to stay for the remainder of the council meeting, you're free to do so. If you wish to leave now, you're also free to do so.
And may I just ask Josh to give the people who spoke an email address to send those?
Thank you. Moving on to item C3.3, building permits report. Councillor Bai.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I move the council note the report of building permits issued from the 1st of April 2018 to the 30th of June 2018.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Hall, is that motion opposed? The motion's unopposed. The motion is carried.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. First thing I'd like to do is just correct a typo. In the original agenda papers that were sent out, we had Cabanes having 4 permits issued for $6.6 million. That'd be fantastic if we actually had that, but really Cabanes is only $920,000. So we've just got that corrected. That will be in our official minutes. But look, I'd just like to point out that what a great job our planning department have done again. they have issued still 254 permits, valued at nearly $30 million. That's huge infrastructure that's actually come in that quarter. Some of the bigger things that have happened is everyone would have seen the Sale City Holden Nissan has now finished their property across the road, so that was planned in that period. We've got the extension that is happening at the Fulham Prison, so that is also in this period. We also have an extension to the Cabanes Primary School, which is fantastic. So there's a few things that have happened in that quarter, but again, congratulations to our planning team.
Thank you, Councillor Bai. Moving on to item C4, General Manager Built and Natural Environment. Item C4.1, the final cost certificate of Dundas Street South Special Charge Construction Scheme. Councillor Rossetti.
Thanks, Mayor. I move that one, Council adopt the final cost certificate for the Dundas Street South Special Charge Street Construction Scheme, scheme number 1601, and two, Council officers prepare the final apportionment-based amounts due. Final apportionment amounts due from property owners for the scheme based on the initial estimated cost of $320,000.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Ma, is that motion opposed? Motion's not opposed. The motion is carried. Okay. Yes. Moving on to item C4.2, the final cost of certificate Dundas Street Northern Special Charge. Councillor Rossetti.
Thanks, Mayor. I move that one, Council adopt the final cost certificate for the Dundas Street North Special Charge Street Construction Scheme, scheme number 1602, and two, Council officers prepare the final apportionment costs amounts due from property owners for the scheme based on the initial estimated cost of $320,000.
Have a second for that? Councillor Ripper, is that motion opposed? The motion's unopposed. The motion is carried. Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillors, for supporting these motions. While they're separate motions, they're obviously dealing with the Dundas Street section from Stall Street through to Cunningham Street, the MacArthur Street being the divider between north and south. The reason for that specification there about the cost being based on the initial $320,000 as advised in the estimate was, in this case, the contracts and costs came back a little bit over. Not much. In many other cases, it's actually come in a little bit under, but until the market really is tested, the estimate is just that. It's pretty close, but we thought it was fair enough just to charge the property owners what we'd said, rather than putting a little bit on top. This is another great outcome for these streets right through our shire, using the combination of some cash from the residents of the street, but significant dollars coming in from the Roads to Recovery funds from the federal government, which is fantastic. These streets have been long overdue for being fixed up. Most of them had the spoon drains and gravel edges, were well outside the use-by date and pretty horrid for people living on them by and large. So driving around those areas now, while they look a bit bare with the grass not quite up yet and the trees not fully grown, I know that in 20 years' time we'll look back and think back to what they were like before and realise how good it is to have them looking schmick. So anyone else who's in those streets that have been declared right through the shire as being up for renewal, just with agreement from those streets, from the residents, certainly encourage them to put their hands up and get involved, because the money is there from feds. It'd be great to use more of it for everyone's streets. Just a matter of having to get the support of the people in those streets. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Rossetti. Moving on to item C5, C5.1, Gippsland Art Gallery Advisory Group meeting minutes. Councillor Rossetti.
Just thought I'd stretch my legs a bit. I move the Council receive the minutes of the Gippsland Art Gallery Advisory Group meeting held on 3rd September 2018.
Do I have a second for that? Councillor Bai. Is that motion opposed? Motion's unopposed. Motion is carried. Councillor Rossetti.
A pretty typical meeting of the Gippsland Art Gallery. I must say it was before the magnificent evening where we had the John Leslie Art Prize, which was only a couple of weeks after this meeting, and Vanessa Kelly winning that art prize for her landscape painting, which was quite stunning, albeit it did have some graffiti of the Collingwood Football Club on it, as pointed out by Councillor Ian Bai, but we won't go there. that biennial prize of $20,000 is significant, not just for our own community, indeed not for the state, but Australia-wide. So that the art gallery in its new form is working really well, and certainly encourage people to get in there and have a look at the exhibitions.
And I can also say that the John Leslie Art Prize is an ongoing legacy from the great philanthropy that John Leslie made to the City of Sale, that he contributes not only to the prize, which is now an acquisitive prize, so the winner is now part of the Gippsland Art Gallery's collection, so it belongs to the community of Wellington, but also he contributes to the cost of managing it, running it, bringing the artwork to and from, with partners with International Art Services. So it was the first John Leslie art prize we'd had without John Leslie, and the first in the gallery, and certainly we had the greatest, it was nearly 500 submissions to be sorted through before we got to this final, I think it's about 50 or 60 works was made the final cut. So congratulations to all the artists, and as I say, continual legacy of John Leslie. Thank you. Moving on to item C5.2, which is the community assistant grants. I believe we have a conflict.
I have a conflict, an indirect interest under section 78B due to a conflict of duty.
So noted, and wait to leave the room. Very good. So now do I have a mover of that item? Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council approve the recommendations to allocate community assistance grants, events, projects and facilities, August 2018, funds as detailed at Attachment A, and that applicants be notified of the outcome of their applications.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Hall, is that motion opposed? The motion is not opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor Ripper, do you wish to speak to that motion? You're on.
Thank you, Mayor. The community assistance grants encourages the development of initiatives in the community in line with Council's vision, Wellington 2030, and the Council plan. It aims to build on the community capacity, encourage participation, in cultural development and support community initiatives and promote participations. So not-for-profit groups can apply for grants of over $2,000 to $5,000. And as can be seen, the following applications were received, 2018 funding round, is 20 events, applications received a total of 94,000 odd. 8 project applications received an amount totalling 35,000 odd, and 11 facility applications received totalling of 52,000. So there is going to be some very happy groups, and I take it, Mayor, point of order, that, I can mention them. I wasn't sure. Okay. I can now mention, and I will pick out a few, the Locksport Community House has received $5,000, and that's for a free event offering 2 fireworks displays in Locksport. We also have the Hayfield and District Machinery Group, which has been going for a number of years, and that's an annual rally to promote preserving Australian heritage. So that's very important, $5,000 for those two. And also, without missing any out, Sale Polo Cross, annual polo cross tournament, attracting many people from interstate. Once again, $5,000. Yarram Agricultural Society, $5,000. And it goes on, Maffra Neighbourhood House, $4,000. Free evening of free entertainment at Victoria Park, featuring a sausage sizzle, fundraising and community information stall, followed by a movie. So that all the family can go along to a free event and enjoy meeting other people in the community, and especially for those people who cannot afford to go out and spend money at other areas. And Coongulla Rec Reserve, Coongulla is a little bit isolated, and the community New Year's Eve in the park is a family-friendly community event to celebrate the end of the year. Now, once again, that is a wonderful area to have that because it is an isolated area. So that means that family and friends can stay at home, do not have to drive out of town. If anyone happens to be drinking, they can be safe in that area. Along with the Stratford-on-Avon Shakespeare Association, which was a wonderful success this year with the Sister Cities event. So that was also getting some money there. And the Golden Beach Paradise Residents and Ratepayers Association. Now, the end of year Summer Surf Festival, that's in 2019. So 3 days of family fun during the Easter weekend activities, including fishing competition, art exhibition, community garage sale. So there are many more in this area that have had successful applications. And for those who say, oh, we didn't know about that, please pass it on, let them apply in the future, that the Shire is very, very helpful and generous staff to help people put in applications. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ripper. Yes, and as you say, I'm sure there'll be a very happy group of people. And congratulations to the organisations who did go to the trouble of contacting the staff first and then filling out the forms to lead to their success. Congratulations to them all. Yes, and you're back. Item C5.3, the Briagolong Rec Reserve Committee. Councillor Ripper.
Right. Microphone on. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council receive the minutes from the Briagolong Recreation Reserve Committee of Management's general meeting held on the 13th of August 2018 and 10th of September 2018.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? The motion's not opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Briagolong Recreation Reserve October meeting last night. And very exciting, we had some plans for an addition to the pavilion. Everyone was very excited around the table, and it's absolutely wonderful what is happening out there. And to think that all the committee are volunteers with families who take time out to make sure that a pavilion is meeting the requirements of Briagolong and districts for their children, not only their children, but children in the future and adults in the future. So congratulations to each and every one of those on the committee, and thank you once again to the Shire who came out that night, was explaining everything to everyone. So it was a great evening. Thank you.
That's a picturesque ground there as well. Moving on to item C5.4, the Newry Rec Reserve Committee Management Minutes. Councillor Hull.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And like Councillor Ripper, this is also a big bunch of enthusiastic volunteers comprising many different... Oh, you want me to move the motion? Oh, that's right. I was saving that. God, I don't know. I'm going to have to get up earlier. The Council received the minutes from the Newry Recreation Reserve Committee of Management's general meeting held on the 27th of August 2018.
Seconded by Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? The motion is not opposed. The motion is carried. Now you may speak to the motion. Thank you.
All I was doing, Madam Mayor, was this is the last item on the night at this stage, and I wanted to make sure everybody's awake. As I've started to say, you know, a big bunch of enthusiastic volunteers here again out of Newry. The committee is slightly different for a Newry Recreation Reserve Committee because it comprises the CFA, the Motorbike Club, as well as the what is known as the Newry Hall, which is actually the Upper Maffra Memorial Hall, which is on the eastern side of the road. So therefore, it's in Upper Maffra, not in Newry. I see in the minutes that they have me listed as an apology. I'll just let you know, councillors, my diary had me there the week before, and at 7:15, it was only me and the security light there. I thought I was in a bit of trouble. But the interesting thing that came out of the minutes is the upgraded the very enthusiastic and youthful committee that are running the Upper Maffra. Well, no, I'll call it the Newry. Everybody calls it the Newry Hall. Call it the Newry Hall. They received $224,744,000 from the Latrobe Valley Authority, and with that money, they've installed acoustics, 2 tanks with CFA outlets, a new heater, timber and painting in the supper room, and that room is also used for childcare, or not childcare, but the young of the district coming into play and have a play group. Now they are setting up to have an open day on election day, so that the community can come along and see the work that they've done. But it's great to see that all around our shire, so much work is being done in the communities and done by the various volunteers, and I'm glad to say that council is playing its part by trying to attract as much funding to help them out.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. I think, as was mentioned in the earlier motion, these are 2 committees that are on dealt land that certainly that was regarded the VAGO report, and like many of our, as was stated, very hard-working community members around all of these volunteer committees. So it's great to hear that they heard another good outcome from the Latrobe Valley Authority there. So thanks once again to them and the state government. Okay. Moving on, we have item D, no urgent business.
No urgent business or chat room comments, Mayor.
Or chat room, thank you. Now, this is also an opportunity for further commentary from the gallery on any item that hasn't been dealt with in the council agenda tonight. So if there's any other... Hello, yes. Would you like to come forth to the... And if you can state your name for the records, thank you.
And I'm the resident of Sale. I'd like to thank Councillor for coming to the Access and Inclusion Advisory Group meetings. It's very important that Council knows the things that we do talk about. EDIS funding is here. A couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I had a meeting at the Latrobe Community Health here in Sale, and on Thursday I received my funding agreement. We have been thinking about this for a very long time. I've been going to valid courses, I've been going to conferences, I've been going to just about everything I can through the past 12 months to try and get an understanding of what's going to be happening to us here in Wellington. I had a community services background. It was with
packages do work at Aqua Energy is that you have a membership. I cannot get funding for a membership because anybody can have a gym membership. But if we reword the way that these packages do happen, I could have an hour of personal training per month plus half an hour, which then goes into the membership component. We've been talking about this. We're already onto it, and I think our councillors need to be pretty proud of the work that Leanne Wishart's done, because she foresaw these things that were going to be happening for us. And we have a very forward-thinking council with access and inclusion, and I think that we're going to do really well. We need to talk about it. We need to continue. As Councillor Ripper said, this is just the beginning. At the Daru Conference, which stands for Disability Advocacy Resource Unit, they had a wonderful conference, and it was all about doing things differently. Doing things differently means that we do embrace people within our community who have disabilities.
They have just put online their conference, and I absolutely recommend. It's worth 6 hours of your time to listen to the speakers. We're moving forward. It is here. I do ask the council, because I was a little bit annoyed of how it happened to me, in that I was asked by Latrobe Community Health in Sale to come and have a meeting, come and have a chat. Whereas because I did have that background knowledge, I thought this might be my, my meeting to see what kind of package I get. I have $17,000, just over, to spend in our local community. And that's what my package is, to enable me, somebody with low vision, to work within the community. I have $1,700 to put into taxi fares. I have, hopefully I can resource some vision equipment which isn't too, which will be within Australia, it won't be overseas. And I'll also have 4 hours a week of somebody to come and assist me to do whatever it is I do need, and that will be somebody who's local. So I think it's a very exciting time for us. It's not coming in January 1st, it's already here. So I'd really like our council to let people know that if they do get a phone call from Latrobe Community Health, it could be that discussion about what you do need. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalie, and thank you for your input, which is also very valuable in the Community Access and Inclusion Committee. So I know you're a very great advocate for your particular group, but also for the broader area that's needed in our community, and also acknowledge your thank you to Leanne Wishart, of which we did there was a great gathering of staff to say farewell to her on her last day, and it was a great acknowledgement of the work that she has done, and also the change of mindset throughout the council office and staff about how we look at access and inclusion. As she says, if good access is good for everyone. So I think I'll always live with that motto, and that was Leanne. So thank you very much, and thanks for that information. If there's any other, yes, if you'd like to come to the...
I'm really nervous. I'll probably stutter 1,000 times, okay? I just want to write, or I didn't want to write, I wanted to read a letter.
Can you just state your name for the recording?
Sorry.
Thank you.
It's Maxine Lister.
Thank you.
Right. I'm writing this letter because I care so much for the peacocks. You've probably heard 1,000 people say the same thing, but I live very close to them, and I just want to read this little letter. Recently I went into the Shire office to speak with someone regarding our beautiful peacocks. I approached the woman at reception with my request. The answer I received was the council's not responsible for the peacocks. Her unnecessary, abrupt, unfeeling manner upset me, but I repeated the request. I was greeted by a friendly female representative who showed me into a private office. However, before I began to speak, I burst into tears. I was just really emotional about the little birds. I apologised but couldn't stop, knowing the council's intention to remove cyclo fence that has for years provided these beautiful birds with a safe place to return each night, and for peahens to lay and hatch their eggs each year, a barrier that prevents harm from any predators. With all the research I've done and all the breeders, farmers and peacock owners I've spoken with, the answer is always the same when it comes to nesting. Peahens need to be safe. All these people provide enclosures and the peahens use them. I'm privileged as I live opposite across from the botanical gardens. Each year these little mothers, along with 3 or 4 fluffy chicks, wander up the driveway to show off their families. The peacocks frequently walk up to my security door and stand there for a minute or so gazing down the hallway before they leave. Tonight, around 6 p.m, which was yesterday, I walked over to the gardens. 10 peacocks and hens were already nestling down for the night inside the enclosure, as they have done for many years now. I'm pleading with you not to expose these birds to harm. Surely in council's plans you can find an area. It doesn't need to be large, just adequate for a small enclosure to ensure peacocks, peahens and chicks are safe. Do you have a duty of care to these creatures? Please answer yes. That's all I have to say at the moment.
Thank you, Maxine.
I'm sorry, did I... Sorry, I just don't think I put this little bit in. The council has stated that the peacocks are wild birds. Did I include that? No.
No.
The council has stated that the peacocks are wild birds and therefore not their responsibility. Maybe that statement was true when these creatures first decided to settle here quite some years ago, but generation later these birds can no longer be considered wild. As council would be aware, wild peacocks prefer their own kind, therefore don't engage with other species. This can hardly be said of our peacocks, as they wander through the botanic gardens all day amongst any visitors. I have lived in Sale for 25 years. My children and I frequently had picnics alongside the peacocks, and now my grandchildren do the same when they visit. I've spoken to peacock breeders, farmers and people who keep them as pets and researched the theory that planting extra tussocks will be adequate for nesting peahens in lieu of an enclosure. Please explain to me how peahens can protect the vulnerable chicks from harm or the unhatched eggs being the target of vandals. School holidays are not far off and the teenagers take over the gardens at night to party from around 10 till early morning. Without a safe enclosure, where can these vulnerable creatures go to escape? That was the part I forgot to include. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if Maxine's happy to, if Dean is happy to get your mobile phone number, we've been working with an ecologist, happy to meet you. A number of people have raised similar concerns to you, Maxine, so happy to meet you on site and go through with you that plan and pick up any of your concerns as well, because certainly our aim is to preserve their numbers. So if you're happy to give us your number, we're happy to contact you and go through that report with you when it's convenient.
Also, Maxine, if I bring your attention on the website, if you go through to the onto the website, there's an area that says about the sale of Botanic Gardens and Garden for Life project. If you search for that, and then at the bottom of that, there's two files that are fact sheets on the wild peafowl and also a peafowl management plan. That's there for you also. Okay. No, but I'm just saying specifically for our Botanic Gardens. Okay. Thank you. We'll answer your questions. I was just directing you to that fact sheet, but we'll have that discussion with the officer if you want to give your details. Thank you. Is there any other comments from the gallery on any other items? There'll be no further comments on the gallery. I'll close the meeting at 7:18 p.m. Thank you for your attendance.